If you are in a state where you are required by law to pay for a break after an employee works a set number of hours, this topic will describe how to set up and process CenterPoint to use break pay adjustment. An example of a break pay adjustment is that the state of Washington passed a law that states that employees being paid for piecework have to get paid for a break every 4 hours of work. The rate of pay for that break is calculated at the higher of either the piece rate pay, which is averaged at an hourly rate, or minimum wage. The first part in setting up CenterPoint to do a break pay adjustment for you is to create an earning for break pay adjustment. We'll do that by going to Setup, Payroll Details, and Earnings. Now, I've already got one created for break pay adjustment, but I'm going to go through the steps, again, creating a new earning so that you can see what those steps are. I'm going to click New, and I'm just going to call this one Break 2 because I already have that break pay adjustment out there. So we'll call this one Break 2, and we'll still just call it Break Pay Adjustment 2. When you create the earning for break pay adjustment, you want to mark it as a regular type pay and a fixed rate method. So those are always going to be that. And then you'll select what expense account you want that to be the default expense account for that earning. That can be changed when it gets assigned at the employee level, but this is going to create a default for the earning when it does get assigned to a new employee. After that, pretty much the only checkbox that you might really need to check is this one called the Include in Minimum Wage Calculation. That'll be determined. Usually what you would do is you would do your break pay adjustment first, and then you would do a minimum wage adjustment if you're needing to do a minimum wage adjustment for these employees. You'll want to check with your state to make sure what the requirements are for that state. The other things that you'll want to do is make sure that you go to the Taxes tab and make sure that you identify what taxes should be calculated on this earning, and then also to the Deductions and Benefits tab to determine which deductions and benefits should be calculated on that earning. Then we're going to click Save, and at that point it's going to ask you if you want to add this earning to employees. You'll say yes. It'll bring up a list of employees that just came up on another screen there for me, so I'm going to drag it over, and you'll identify which employees you want to add that to. So you only want to add it to those that you need to do a break pay adjustment for. Okay, I'm not going to click the add right now because I don't really want to add that to new employees, so I canceled that. It did add the break pay adjustment earning. I can't delete it because it added it to my employer. I'll remove it from my employer when we get to the employer record. I'm going to click Close on that. The next step is to set up the employer settings for break pay adjustment. So we'll go to Setup and Payroll Details and Employers. I'm going to edit the employer and go to the Earnings tab. On the Earnings tab, I'm just going to remove that one for Break Pay Adjustment 2 because I really don't need that earning, so I'm just going to remove it. But what you do want to do is make sure that you're highlighted on the word earning over there on the top left, and then on the right-hand side, since we need to make sure that we know what the state's minimum wage is, we want to click on the federal and state rates there. And that again came up on another screen for me. So I'm going to drag that over to this screen here. And I'm going to go down to my state, which is the state of Washington. And I just want to make sure that I have my state's minimum wage rate in here. So I do have the minimum wage rate in here. I'm going to go ahead and click Close on that. And then down at the bottom on that same side, there is a section called Break Pay where you want to identify what earning is going to be used for that break pay adjustment. And so I'm just going to use my one break pay adjustment, one that I had created earlier. And then you're going to tell the system how to calculate that break pay adjustment. So for my employer, we need to just pay our employees for a 10-minute break every 4 hours that they work. If yours isn't as simple as that and you need a more complicated setup, you can check the bottom circle, and there you can go ahead and describe how you make those adjustments. So let's say that I needed to say that for every for the first 4 hours they get 10 minutes, but if they work 6 hours, they get 20 minutes. If they work 8 hours, they get 40 minutes. And I can go on and keep describing different levels like that. I don't need that. Mine is a little more simplified. I only need 10-minute break for every 4 hours worked. So that's what I'm going to identify for my employer. We'll click Save on that. We're done with the employer setup. Now, on the employees, there's a couple things that you'll need to still identify. We already added the earning to the employee when we created it, but if you still need to add it to other employees, you can do that. On the employee setup, though, there's a couple of things that I just want to point out here. I'm going to go into one of the employees, and I'm going to go to their earnings tab. I'm going to highlight break pay adjustment. And one thing that you'll probably want to take off of here is to display in the pay employees grid. We don't need to see a line there for break pay adjustment each time because you're never going to enter anything into the line. The system is going to calculate the break pay adjustment. So you'll want to take that checkbox off, and then you'll leave the rate as 0, always on the break pay adjustment here. But if you need to identify how that expense is going to be, if you either need to change the expense account right here, you can change it, or if you need to identify how it's going to be allocated to different profit centers or use an account distribution, you can also make that selection here. Okay, so I'm going to remove that checkbox for each one of my employees that are getting that break pay adjustment. I'm going to go to the earnings tab, go to break pay adjustment, and just remove that checkbox. On my last employee, we'll do that. Then when I'm done with the employees, I can close that screen. Now the last part is to go ahead and create a pay run where we're going to do the break pay adjustment. I went ahead and entered in timesheets for my employees. You can enter in their time right on the pay run without entering in timesheets. Underneath processes and timesheets, I'm going to edit one of the employees that I entered hours in for because I want to make sure that you see here where I chose the earning for piece rate. I put in the number of pieces that they were being paid for, but I also need to identify the number of hours so that the system can figure out what the hourly rate is for piece rate. So based off of what they're getting paid, so this 155 divided by 8 would give you what this person was getting paid for on an hourly basis. And so we need to have both the pieces and the hours in there. And that's what I wanted to show you on the timesheet. Now I'm ready to create a pay run where I'm going to pay these employees and do the actual break pay adjustment. So we'll go to Processes and Pay Employees, click New. I'm going to identify my company, my bank account, what pay run number it is, what pay period of the month it is, the pay dates. So my pay dates are actually from 2/4 to 2/10 with a pay date of 2/13. And since I'm just going to bring over those employees that I have the timesheets for. I'm not going to include other employees because these are the ones that I'm doing the break pay adjustment for anyways. So I'm going to move them over to the right, and then I'm going to click on Import Timesheets. And I'm not doing any kind of overtime calculation, so I'm not going to go ahead and select that I want to do an overtime calculation. I'm simply importing the timesheets. And it tells me that it's going to import 15 timesheets, but basically that was 15 lines from 3 different people's timesheets. Then I'm going to go to the Enter Pay tab. Now, you'll notice that at the top, I don't see that break pay adjustment because I haven't done a break pay adjustment yet. I could go to a blank line and click on the lookup and I can select a break pay adjustment, but I don't really want to do that because the system is going to calculate the break pay adjustment. That is what back when we were on the setup of employees and I went into those employees and I went to the earning there for break pay adjustment. When I took the checkbox out of there, that removed it from the line back over here on the pay run so that I don't see a line there for it. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what that did do for you. My timesheet earnings are down below, but like I said, if you didn't want to enter in a timesheet, we could have put the information up here at the top in one lump sum, but you would want to add the pieces here too for the piece rate. So you'd right click and add a column for the number of pieces. Okay, so to do that break pay adjustment, we would go to the special adjustments screen. I'm going to take out the check mark for minimum wage and I'm going to do the break pay adjustment first. I'm going to choose which state I'm doing it for, the state of Washington. If I don't choose a state, then it'll do the calculation on all states. So I just want it to do the calculation for the state of Washington here for earnings in the state of Washington. Okay, if I don't identify a state, it does it for all of the earnings and it's not just for the Washington earnings. Okay, when you do a break pay adjustment, you could either do a lump sum, which I'll do this first one in a lump sum, or I can break it out by earning detail, meaning that I'll see what the adjustment is for each day of or each line of pay for that employee. So I'm going to do the first one as a lump sum. So I'm just going to click calculate there. And you'll see here that it's doing a break pay adjustment of $39.40 for that employee. And if I go back to, so this is Frank Pinion, if I go back to the Enter Pay tab and highlight Frank, you'll now see a line for the break pay adjustment up here. So you'll see there that it went ahead and put a line there. That's why I didn't need to have a blank line. And it does it all as one amount. Okay, so I don't see how much adjustment was made for each day. I just see it as one amount. If I go to the special adjustment screen and highlight my next employee, George Aspen, and this time if I say that I want to do a breakout adjustment by earning detail and click calculate, over here, I'm still just going to see one lump sum amount that it was $32.85. But if I go to the Enter Pay tab and I highlight that employee, you'll see that it did that adjustment by each day there. Okay, so I see one for each of my earning details. So either way, you'll just want to make sure that you do the adjustment for all of the employees. So I'm going to make sure that I also do it for Ted Maple. Now I could have highlighted multiple employees and I could have done the calculate for multiple employees at one time. When you're done, you just go ahead and continue to print your checks as normal. Before I print the checks, though, I'm going to go to the Prepayment Reports tab because on the Prepayment Reports tab, I want to point out that there is a report called Special Adjustments. And if I preview that report, you will see here all of the adjustments that were made for break pay. And you'll see that for Ted Maple and for Frank Pinion, I did it as one lump sum, but for Ted Maple and George Aspen, I had chosen to do it in earning detail. So I'm seeing what adjustment was made for each day. Okay, now I can proceed. After I print off that report, I can go ahead and proceed to print the checks as normal.